worst things you can do in your persuasion conversation is to explain. Now there are two types of explaining. Please learn this now. Two types of explaining. One, explaining for understanding, for clarity, so people know the instructions, blah, blah, blah. Okay? That's fine. Teachers do that all the time. But we use the other type of explaining to convince. Do you know what I'm saying? You explain why, because you want to convince the other person. You play this game, huh? Die. You die one. I guarantee. Either that or the other person die and then just give you the money because they cannot be bothered. Okay? You don't want that kind of client. Huh? That kind of client will wake up one day and say, hey, Dad, brother, I can talk about you. So there's two types of explaining. One is fine when you explain for understanding. The other is when you explain to convince. And the only difference is your intention or your driving force. If you have a need to sell, I guarantee it will sound like explaining to convince. If you have a need just for people to be educated, it's very different. Very different. So this is the two types of explaining. Avoid the second type, the need to convince, because that's a losing game for you. You need to convince. Sometimes educating people is more convincing than trying to convince. You know what I mean? When you tell them the truth about things, just tell them without the attachment that, you know, please not, that one's so sad.